From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and Million Dollar Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count out the top 10 things of the week that make us go wow. I'm Fenton Bailey, joined by Tom Campbell, James St. James.
James St. James might be poopy and pukey today, so if I run off suddenly, that's what's going on. I'm sick as a dog. It would be
kind of cool if you actually vomited on the show.
You want me to try? I will.
We might go viral.
If that's what it takes to get the ratings up, I'll do it.
Well, while we still have you, let's start quickly at number 10.
Number 10.
I am trying not to doom scroll, whatever it is, but it's catching up to me. But that being said, I'm trying to counter this. I'm staying abreast, but I'm trying to find moments of joy, queer joy, but really just joy. And there's a bunch of little things that I've experienced in the past couple of weeks that I want to share with you, with our listeners, that brought me in different ways some queer joy. Just a quick list of fabulous things. But when I was in New York, even though I went to lots of shows, I also went to the Whitney, where there's an Alvin Ailey exhibit. Do you know Alvin Ailey, the dance?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, who I was introduced to through Dinah Ross specials. Her search.
Madonna was an Alvin Ailey dancer.
Yes, but in Diana's search for Black excellence, and a couple of her specials, it would feature the Alvin Ailey dancers, and it was so exotic and so whatever. And it was, Alvin Ailey's a gay man; he's not with us anymore. And they've taken an entire floor of the Whitney, which is the most amazing museum, and they've made it truly an immersive experience. We're up on the walls of these incredible, wraparound screens that show performances and auditions. And
Judith Jamison was the principal dancer, I believe.
I believe you're right.
Yeah. In fact,
yes.
The first Broadway show I ever went to was Sophisticated Ladies, the music of Duke Ellington, the dancing of Alvin Ailey, and the beauty of Judith Jamison, who is just stunning.
The exhibit ends February 9th in New York, so time's running out. If you can catch it, it's an immersive experience. There's also lots of art and things that go along with the period. It's amazing. I'm not an expert, but it took my breath away. I just sat and enjoyed it, soaked it up. The second thing is just this past week at the Palm Springs Museum, there's a David Hockney exhibit. It's huge, and it's all from one collector's, collection. It's just an amazing. I was expecting to see a lot of pools and diving boards because, that's what I think of with David Hockney. That exists. But this is an incredible range. It's no in chronological order, but it's a span from drawings and lithographs, very simple black and white images that he produced as a young man in the early 60s, up, through things that you recognize, very different styles. It's called sort of I think it's challenging the perspective. And, there's photography that you see in pictures of his feet and, a carpet and his mother and all that kind of stuff. But it goes up to, which I thought was fascinating, work he does, brilliant, clearly David Hockney work he does on his iPad. So It's just, again, I'm not an art expert. I'm not going to try to use my words to visualize it. But it was just, again, what a depth and breadth of a man's work. Another queer man who has made such an impact on the world of art. James, what?
Well, it's interesting that he, more than probably any other living artist, is somebody who has embodied the 70s, embodied the 60s,
yes.
embodied the 80s. I mean, so completely. And now moving into the technical age, he's doing it on,
yes.
iPad. And it's just fascinating how he moves with the times in a way that.
And I don't think of him as an artist with a huge, he's not just a queer artist. He's an incredible artist who also, in telling his stories, includes men. And, it's autobiographical and biographical. It's fantastic. From the art museums to the television late night. I sent this to you guys. I don't know if you saw it, but we talked about Death Becomes Her. Ben and I both saw it, but the Let's Hear It for the Gays, the Megan Hilty song with 19 quick changes was on the Jimmy Fallon show. And I'm so glad we take advantage, but you go to Broadway and it's gone, right? It's it's the late night appearances and the little video things that will live on forever, that we'll be showing our gay grandchildren someday, hopefully.
It was fantastic. And she does Judy Garland in various eras. And she
Liza. It's all stagecraft. It's all bringing in dancers that tend to be her, so she can do a quick change and things, which on TV you can tell a little bit more. On the theater, and Fenton can back me up, it was kind of flawless and hilarious and campy and fantastic.
Absolutely.
The other thing I saw on Bob Greenblatt, who is a big executive and producer, is they have started rehearsals for Smash the Musical based on Smash the TV series that I was obsessed with on NBC about Marilyn Monroe. And so it's on Broadway. It has begun, the rehearsals. Very exciting. I tried to watch some things, and everything's so dark, and I'm feeling dark. So I spent a delicious hour with Fortune Feimster doing her most recent stand-up comedy in a pink suit on Netflix. And again, it's hilarious. She makes fun of her mother in a way and she talks about her honeymoon with her wife, who we've all met. We work with Fortune, we love her. And her wife wanted to go to the Maldives or something. And it wasn't until she was on the 24-hour flight there that busy Fortune got to look it up. In the Maldives, it's illegal to be homosexual in the Maldives, and they'll kill you for it. So it was about sort of like surviving her honeymoon in the Maldives. Anyway, fantastic. And last but not least, this is gay adjacent. It's actually very queer. I am so thrilled to read the rave reviews that J-Lo and the whole movie Kiss of the Spider Woman is getting at Sundance.
Oh,
I am sick of bashing Miss J-Lo. J-Lo no one works harder than J-Lo. No one's more beautiful than J-Lo. No one is more of an entertainer, like an Anne Margaret. Like, she's out there, she's giving it to us all the time, and we kind of take what we like and don't take what we like, and this and that. But it's supposed to be the role of a lifetime. You know, it's about a time when Argentinian government, and they send a queer man to jail. Sounds timely, and he conjures up and imagines the Spider-Woman. It was a movie with William Hurt originally playing the role of the prisoner. It was on Broadway with Chita Rivera as the Spider-Woman, and now it's J-Lo and it's Bill Condon who did Chicago and so many more.
The same journey as Hairspray.
Yes.
Right.
And I think again, you can listen to it on your own and I'll stop, but it's like, I think the rights owner was the man who made the movie, I forget his name, and he passed away. So it was a long time to get the rights together, and it was done sort of independently. And J-Lo just seems so happy. And I don't know, again, J-Lo is in the world where it's becoming clear who you're with and who you're again. I'm with J-Lo. And I think it's amazing that a woman in her 50s can have her first serious, she also does trashy movies, which I love. The Boy Next Door. I love her too.
That feels like a complete top 10 almost in itself. I love it.
I can't talk about any of them knowledgeably, but this is what I need to keep my spirit alive. So that's a bunch of stuff.
Right. Thank you for those bonbons of queer joy, Tom. James, number 9.
Number 9.
I went to go see The Brutalist, and I have a 3-word review. East thus brutal. And
I don't want to get sidetracked, but that's why you're so sick, apparently, right?
It is right. Yeah, I was shivering in the movie theater. I was soaking. Now I know Fenton talked about it last week, I believe, and so I just have a few points that I want to sort of get your take on it. The first is, how bizarre is it that everybody wants to fuck Adrien Brody in the movie?
Architects. Everybody wants to fuck him.
I think it's the nose. I think everyone wants to ride that nose, basically. And it's also that sort of like hump the tortured artist syndrome, I think. In the beginning, you have his cousin who's like, I want you to dance with my wife. I think you like it. And that's sort of like this weird cuck fantasy thing. Then you have his wife. Now, Fenton, tell me, was she masturbating him or was she masturbating herself in that scene?
I don't know.
Because she's sitting there, she's doing this Halle Berry Monsters Ball thing where she's like, I want you to make me feel good. And he's crying and like, woman, please stop that. As we don't know, and she's sort of, you just see like hand motions and you don't know what's going on beneath.
Is it just one hand or can there be 2 hands involved? Maybe she's doing both.
We don't know.
Okay.
We just have a close up of their faces as she's like, make me feel good, baby. So, and then we see Guy Pearce coming a mile down Sunset Boulevard. You just know what's going to happen. You don't suspect it's going to be quite as brutal as it is when Guy Pearce assaults him. And then Guy Pearce's daughter is also sort of coming after him. It's absolutely bizarre. And the thing is, it sort of reminds me, Tom, of in every Joan Crawford movie from the 1950s when she's sort of frumpy and not attractive. And everyone is like, she's the most beautiful woman in town. Like everywhere she goes, everyone's like, oh, her beauty. And she's like, not beauty. He is not handsome. He is not that sexy. I don't understand why everyone is going after him. Anyway, number 2, the AI controversy. And I am firmly of the opinion that anyone who uses AI to enhance their accent, which he did, that is not his accent. AI gave him a Hungarian accent. And I think that automatically disqualifies you for any award. I think
throughout the entire movie,
they gave him a new accent. And I don't know.
I thought it was just a little tweaking here and there, the odd vowel.
He uses a lot of damn vowels, Fenton. Every word has a vowel. So yes, every vowel is tweaked, which means every word is tweaked. So I just don't think that he should be nominated for anything, or maybe Fenton believes that this is just the new normal, and that it's just
the new normal.
Do it.
The new normal, deep sea.
Well, you know for a fact that actors and actresses both get lots of their skin is touched up, the bags in their eyes are replaced. I'm not coming down right or wrong, but I'm exploring this topic with you.
Well, you use prosthetics, so you do enhance things in other ways. But the other thing was that they enhanced some of the buildings too. And I thought that was in a $100 million movie about architecture. You CGI.
$10 million. It cost $10 million. They really made every cent go a long way. It looks like $100 million movie.
It does. Yeah. My third point was I found the epilogue just really jarring. I thought that 80s music, and it's funny because it's a 4.5 hour movie once you factor in the trailers and the intermission. And at some point, my sister and I were like, it's got to be over soon. It's got to be ending soon. And it's like 2.5 hours. And then all of a sudden it's the intermission. And we're like, we're just halfway through. I thought they could have done without it. I thought they could have explained the Buchenwald and Auschwitz,
Things were not really the same for me after the intermission, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought the first part was flawless.
Yeah.
But then it just was like a lot of different things happening. And you say you saw the assault coming a long way off. I didn't. No.
Well, you knew that he was a freak. You knew that he was a bad man. You knew that he, the first time you meet him, he goes off and he has that screaming tangent where he's like, this is trash. You're fired. And you knew from that moment on that no matter how good he redeems himself, that part of him is still there.
All right. Tom, you have to see it.
You have both done such an amazing job of repelling me from wanting to see it. I have to say. Maybe I'll do the old Broadway trick and I'll go for the first half and leave the intermission. Maybe I'll do that.
All right. So that's the Brutalist. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again. Number 8. I want to pick up on a little bit on what Tom was saying about looking for things that bring you joy. And in my experience a little bit, it's been also like looking for something that's different. Because you sort of feel oppressed sometimes by the sameness of everything. And it was in that context that I came across this documentary simply called Eno. And it's about Brian Eno. Eno was the keyboardist of Roxy Music back in the 70s. And Eno was one of the first sort of synth wizards. He used synthesizers and made all these really crazy sounds. He was also very androgynous. And you thought he was going to become a big glam rock star. But in fact, instead, Eno became this famous, fabled producer. U2, In the Name of Love, he produced. David Bowie, Heroes, he produced. Talking Heads, Once in a Lifetime. I mean, 3 epochal hits that have such a unique sound.
Fitton, do you know his song named By This River? It's from his 77 album, Before and After Science.
Oh, I do not. But he has produced, he's so incredible.
It's amazing.
And he's really Eno is more recently known as the sort of pioneer of ambient music. When ambient music first came out, it was considered a terrible failure for him. And there was even a Eno-esque, a sort of precursor of emo. Of course, I mean, Eno-esque means it just goes on and on and on. Anyway, This documentary is made by Gary Huswith, who made the Helvetica documentary, an entire feature documentary about the Helvetica font. And this documentary about Eno, every time they show it, it is different. And it's not just like a little bit different. It is computer generated different sequences. So it's almost like they are rearranging the pieces. And I ended up, it was a 24-hour streaming event. I was only going to watch the documentary once, but I ended up watching the documentary 3 times. Amazing, just fascinating. One of my favorite stories, there's many really good stories, but he went to see the Marcel Duchamp urinal installation in the New York Museum, the urinal, the sort of ready-made. He was so incensed by it, being in a museum, that he went out to a hardware store, bought some tubing, rigged up a bag, went back to the museum and peed into this tube that he managed to find a hole in the case to deposit his pee into the urinal. And the U2, In the Name of Love, how that song began is great footage. You would think someone sat down and wrote this amazing song with all this power. But no, they had a drum loop. And then Eno says, Bono, could you sing along something? And he's like, I suppose I could just hum something. And he goes into the studio and belts out this incredible chorus.
They have footage of that? They have footage of that?
Yeah, they do. It's all on camera. Yeah, it's incredible.
I love any origin of creativity is something I love those moments. They're so magical.
It is. And because his whole thing is art is not about building a cathedral. Nothing wrong with building cathedrals, but his idea is it should be more like you plant a garden, and how it turns out and how it changes is the joy of it. Because he says, I want to be surprised by what I make, and I don't want it to be fixed and finished. And he's saying that that's what creativity is anyway. It was a very surprisingly, I'm talking about it in this very sort of conceptual way, I guess, but it was surprisingly moving, especially when, and he's also fascinated in systems and self-generating stuff, which sounds, again, a little bit artsy-fartsy. But his whole point is that it's about the mistakes. It's not about the control. And that, in fact, the idea of surrendering is when we are the happiest, because we lose the ego and we learn to adapt. And so his thing is the art of surrender is actually an active verb and a fantastic creative strategy. And there were just all sorts of things like that in this film. Another was, he said, it's funny that we depend on each other more, but we understand each other less. And that the sort of complexities of this endless techno society that is sort of blossoming and blooming, we depend on each other more, but we understand each other less. I thought it was very, very profound.
I love that notion of a garden and things changing and growing, because there's always that lock cut. And yet you always know you could do it better or different or change something. And there's this, it sort of mirrors, or again, I have no answers to this, but the fact that technology allows us to tinker. Some of this might be perfectionism, which would be, again, surrender, but to tinker with the vision, to redo the sound, to make a vocal. I always say, like Lucille Ball in Mame, she can't sing, but what if you could AI her singing well? Would it make the movie better? I don't know. It's really excellent food for thought. Where do we get to see this now?
Well, I'm not quite sure where it's showing up next. It started at the Sundance Film Festival last year, and they just had this streaming event, but I think they're going to keep on doing it independently, rolling it out. So it's worth Googling and finding out when it next is streaming, because the version you watch will not be the version I saw. It is very, very cool and really made me excited about what all of us are doing. For the first time in a long time, of just sort of feeling so oppressed and traumatized by this sort of blunt force thing that's happening politically. It was just a realization that
on the side of pro AI, because this was absolutely fantastic.
Well, I'm not pro AI so much as the technology we've created is a natural extension of ourselves, and it is inevitable that it is going to lead to better things and worse things and more complicated things, I suppose, ultimately. And that you just can't say no. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
I've learned so much as a New York Times word crossword puzzle junkie. Brian Eno is a clue a lot of the times to the ENO. So now I know so much more. Thank you.
No, he's a real inspiration, bizarrely, at this moment in time. Let's take a break. Where's Blake? We need Blake.
I'm here. Okay. In 1961, the United States launched a 4-year-old male chimpanzee on a Mercury Redstone 2 rocket into space. What was his name?
We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James and Blake. Just before we go on, Slaycation, 6-part series, Boa, Jada, Candy Muse, Kerry Colby, Lux Noir, Lawrence Chaney, all yucking it up in a log cabin, a winter cabin in the snow. And it's hilarious. And of course, where do you watch it?
Wow Presents Plus.
Plus, it's like The Shining. No, it's not.
Is that?
With lipstick. On this day in 1961, the U.S. launched a 4-year-old male chimpanzee into space on a Mercury Redstone 2 rocket. What was his name?
I swear to God, I used to know this, and it's been pushed out by the names of Kardashian grandchildren. But I'm going to guess it's Bobo.
Good guess.
I was going to say like Bunky or something, or yeah.
There's a bee, and the bee keeps coming up. We see a bee.
I want to say Bubbles. That's it. I want to say Bubbles, but it's not. Of course, it's not Bubbles.
His name was Eno. No, his name was Ham.
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 People do like the way you say ham.
Ham.
Oh, we are counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. We've reached number 7, Tom.
Number 7.
I want to talk about the Grammy Awards. They're happening this Sunday. Oftentimes we talk about them afterwards, and we still might. But I wanted to take a little poll. Blake, please join us. I'm going to read off some of the nominations. I do feel like this is a year where a lot of new important artists either have emerged, hit the scene, or broken out. And so it's kind of old guard versus new guard. I'm going to read down some of the categories. Give me your reaction to each of these nominees. Record of the year. Do you think Now and Then by the Beatles should win?
Maybe 50 years ago.
Right. And it wasn't that spectacular of a record. I'm sorry. Texas Hold'em by Beyonce.
It's a contender. It's a definite contender.
Espresso, Sabrina Carpenter.
I mean, it was everywhere.
360, Charli XCX.
Blake has a raging.
I see thumbs up. Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. See, it's very competitive.
It's a good song. It's a very good song, but I don't think the whole album stands up.
This is just the record of the year. It's the single.
Oh, okay.
And then there's Not Like Us, Kendrick Lamar. I've heard it. And Blake, you say thumbs up. You gotta say thumbs up.
Yeah, it was a huge cultural moment. Maybe not for you, but for a lot of people.
You aren't that young, Miss Thing. You are not this.
I'm not talking about young people.
Twink. You are an old man yourself, so don't be looking your nose down at us.
Blake, forget James. It's just the virus. It's the bird flu talking. It's not James. Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan. And last but not least, Fortnite by Taylor Swift featuring Post Malone.
She wins everything. Give it to someone else.
Okay. I want to give it to Chappell Roan. What do you guys think?
Okay.
Yes.
Album of the Year. New Blue Sun by Andre 3000. Playboy Carter by Beyonce. Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter. Brat by Charli XCX. Diesel Volume 4, Jacob Collier. No idea. Hit Me Hard and Soft, Billie Eilish. The Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess, Chappell Roan. And Tortured Poets Department, Taylor Swift.
Not Taylor, only because she always wins it.
Okay.
I say give it to Charli XCX, but
I
think either Sabrina or Chappell.
Okay.
Or Beyonce. I'm not going to be mad about Beyonce.
Yeah.
All right. That's very non-committal. I'm going to go with Brat as well. Let's make Brat our official answer and see if we're right next week. Song of the Year, which is the record of the year is the production. The song of the year is the writing and stuff. A bar song, Tipsy. It's true. A bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi.
Okay.
Birds of a Feather, Billie Eilish.
Mm-hmm.
Die with a Smile, Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, which is a song by listening to the car, I've grown to love. Fortnight by Taylor Swift featuring Post Malone.
Mm.
Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan.
Yeah.
Not Like Us, Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Please, 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 Sabrina Carpenter.
I loved that one.
And Texas Hold'em, Beyonce.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this is where I start to tune out a little bit because there's just too many record of the year, album of the year, song of the year. I mean, there's just
a lot.
It's a lot. And
it sounds like the same nominees.
It sounds like the same nominees in the same category.
But you have your Beyonce's versus your Sabrina Carpenter's. It's Shabuzi versus Billie Eilish. It's kind of interesting to me. So I'm gonna put in our group vote and say it's gonna be Die with a Smile. It's gonna be a big upset. It's gonna be Die with a Smile.
Okay.
And then I'll end with this one because this is going really badly. Best New Artist.
Oh, this is my favorite.
Benson Boone. Just being honest.
Oh, he's really hot. You would like him.
Okay. Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Doechii, who we had on Drag Race this year, who's
Love.
fantastic. Huan Bin, Ray, R-A-Y-E, Chappell Roan, Shabuzi, or Teddy Swims.
Chappell.
I would like Chappell, but I have a feeling it might be Shabuzi just because he's an unstoppable force in the industry.
He does have a huge record. Fenton, any thoughts on this? And you don't have to, but I'm just wondering.
I don't know. Shabuzi sounds nice to say though. Performs well on the mouth.
And I am going to throw in one more because it involves friends of ours. Best Dance Pop Recording. Make You Mine by Madison Beer. Von Dutch by Charli XCX. L'amour de ma vie, Billie Eilish. Yes and Ariana Grande. Or Got Me Started by Troye Sivan. What do you think?
Yes, Troye Sivan. I love Troye.
Troye Sivan. Troye Sivan, and you're thinking Von Dutch by Charli XCX. I'm going to say Charli XCX. There's lots to see. This is the first award show since the Palisades fires, I believe. They say that they're going to make it more of a fundraiser. We mentioned that before. And I don't want to feel too guilty about watching it. It's my rationalization. The straight people have sports to get themselves through this dark time. And award shows, especially the Grammys, and RuPaul's Drag Race are gay sports. So I'm looking forward to the big game on Sunday, the Grammy Awards. We'll see if our predictions can come true or how far off.
Excellent Grammy predictions. Thank you. Number 6, James.
Number 6.
The 28 Years Later trailer, which I asked you guys to watch. It might be the most terrifying trailer of all time. It might be the most disturbing trailer of all time. It might be the best trailer of all time. Yes, Blake?
The scariest thing I thought was the audio, which
that's why I'm talking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Rudyard Kipling poem from 1903 that was read on the air in 1915, 110 years ago, by a man named Taylor Holmes. And he effectively, it's a rhythmic sort of drum marching
Boots.
Yeah. And it effectively traumatized an entire generation of Brits. Fenton, were you around at the time? You must have been a young slip of the thing.
I wasn't around in 1900 and whenever, but I did see the trailer in the theater, and it was one of the most disturbing things, and had no clue what the audio was.
Yes, and that's what made it even scarier. And I just want to read a little bit of it where he goes, don't look in front of you. Boots, marching down, up and down again. Men go mad at watching them. There's no discharge in the war.
Well, and they use that for psychological torture.
Well, it's weird because there's two theories about that I've heard. One is they use it to psychologically torture prisoners of war with it. Also, that some people say that if you've been captured, you recite it to keep your sanity. I've heard that version too. So I don't know which is true, but both of them could be true because they're both absolutely disturbing.
But I'm going to give you like a trigger warning if you're feeling blue, because James did not give me a trigger warning in Descent and said, watch this. And it's one of the reasons I'm in a crazy mood today.
And James, your performance had much more warmth and human emotion. There's something very not undead, but just very disorienting about the performance, the radio performance. You don't know where it's coming from, what it's about, what the emotion is. It
feels like a witch incantation, doesn't it? Like a magic spell. And the fact that it's this high-pitched voice that gets progressively louder and louder until it's shouting. And you're like, oh my God, what in the hell am I watching?
It's so terrifying. I don't know if I can go see the movie because
I don't know that I can either. Also, they aren't showing it on TV because it's too disturbing for TV, so it's only on YouTube and in the theater. So you can only watch it those two ways.
I don't know why things are less terrifying on YouTube, but I will get into that on another show.
Well, that's 28 years later. The chilling trailer. 28 Years, of course, is the sequel to 28 Days Later, which is itself then led to 28 Weeks Later. It's a zombie trilogy. Right. It's coming out soon. Number 5.
Number 5.
More queer joy this week. I watched a series, and I think, James, you've talked about it before. The Boyfriend on Netflix. It's a Japanese gay dating reality format.
I love it. Oh, yeah.
Guys live in a house. They call it the green room. And the mission is they have to work in a coffee truck, like mobile coffee truck. And are they going to fall in love with each other? And oh my gosh, I think reality show is the wrong thing to call it, in the sense that you immediately assume it's housewives shouting at each other, drinking wine, and none of that. These people are so respectful and thoughtful and considerate of each other. You almost can imagine a US casting person saying, well, we can't have them, we can't have them, we can't have them. But instead, what you have is this very real, very genuine, just moving, beautiful series about a bunch of guys living together. And it's not like Big Brother, because actually some people arrive late, some people leave early, some people come in. It's very organic. And
it speaks to the difference between Japanese culture and American culture. It really does, where the Japanese are just so wonderful and so beautiful and so just respectful of each other. It's just, I just love it. I think it's one of my favorite shows of the year.
Me too. I wonder if it works because the whole series is about people learning to express their feelings or speaking them. And that is kind of not what you do in Japan. No one goes around really sort of being Oprah, talking about their feelings. And so for them, the challenge is for them to be able to find their emotions and express them and share them. But it's so beautiful and lovely. And, you know, not everyone finds love, and a couple of people do. And it's so moving, and it's so...
How long do you think they shot this for? Sorry.
I don't think, probably not that long, because every day there's a different person goes out in the coffee truck and they choose someone else they're going to work with. So it's about 10 episodes. There's 10 episodes, in fact, and not every day is a coffee truck day. So maybe 3 weeks, maybe.
Okay. A lot.
Yeah. If you get a chance to watch it, it's pretty.
I'm gonna have to now. I will definitely see this before I see The Brutalist, just so you know.
Recommend that. Yes. I Hate People. People Hate Me. Episode 1 is now streaming for free on Wow Presents on our YouTube channel, and of course the entire series uncensored on Wow Presents Plus. Two friends navigate their lives as outliers in Toronto's queer community. It's dark, but it's hilariously funny.
I have a question. Who's in the Super Bowl? You gay people.
All right, we'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Vincent here with Tom and James and Blake with perhaps the hardest question we have ever been asked on the Wow Report.
Yeah, the Super Bowl's coming up. Who is playing?
I think it's the Ravens and the Chiefs.
Mm-mm.
No?
I think it's whatever team Taylor Swift's boyfriend is on, which I think is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Philadelphia team, and they might be the Philadelphia Eagles.
You got it. And there are balloons coming up all around you. Yeah.
I'm so impressed.
I know that from watching QVC. Don't ask me why.
Okay. Why?
They're heterosexual women who have to sell to other heterosexual women, and they have to keep their husbands happy, and they live. And it's based out of Philadelphia, so they had a lot of green stuff on the set.
Carrying on with the countdown. Actually, it's you again, Tom. Number 4.
Number 4.
Wow is not the word. It's mind-blowing what Caroline Kennedy said about her cousin, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, by this point, you probably read it or heard her say it. The content is super important, but I want to focus for a minute on the fact that Caroline Kennedy, who has a pristine reputation, who is a family loyalist, who does not exploit her family name, has lived through tragedy, has carried out a tradition, was raised by an amazing mother, and not shielded, but just like grew up in a world where she could have been so molded and shaped and against all of her instincts and decorum, felt it necessary for the health and well-being of American citizens to come out and say the truth, her truth about her lifelong relationship with her cousin, who, the headlines, if you're just reading headlines, when it's like, he's a predator. And she does say that, but she backs up everything she says. I also think, I don't know what you guys think, but she comes from like this place of compassion. Like, it's sort of like she does not want to be saying this. She does not want to like have to sort of dredge up this abusive, crazy person. But it's not just a character slam. She's talking about, she's been an ambassador. She's, run the Kennedy Center. She's done lots of important things. She's a very bright woman. She happened to be a classmate of my brother's at Harvard. At my brother's graduation, I sat 2 rows and 14 seats away from Jackie O and John Kennedy. But that's my claim to fame. But she just says, he has no medical experience. He has no administration appearance. That he's gotten by on being kind of bombastic by cult of personality, sound familiar, and by breaking rules. And she brought out his hypocrisy, the fact that his children are in fact immunized, and yet he spreads all this misinformation about immunizations and raising hope for people who have children. Science has proven, and this is not my field expert, but proven again and again that autism is not caused by vaccination.
But the craziness around him is like, has she said it too late? I mean, that sounds like a criticism, but it seems like
that's so fair. I feel like this is again where Democrats make me nervous, and they're, because there's that paradox of tolerance, which says if a tolerant society tolerates intolerance, there will no longer be tolerant societies. And I felt like in the presidential election, the week before the election, a lot of people came out and said things like, where were you 3 months in? Half the people had already voted. And in that way, and I'm not criticizing Carolyn Kennedy because I think it was painful, but people are used to a decorum, a way of doing things. This is not like how I communicate with the world, but it's necessary. So better late than never. By the time this airs, we're pre-taping. His fate, will be known. But she made such a compelling case. If you haven't seen it by some reason, you should. But again, the very fact that Caroline Kennedy is holding a camera to her face and making this pronouncement is so out of character and makes it that much more powerful for me. Yes, James.
Unfortunately, as we've seen, no matter what a piece of shit these nominees are, they each get confirmed. They just do. There's no.
I know.
No matter what happens, but also I have a tendency to read comment sections in like Daily Mail and stuff like that, and on Twitter, on X, and the response to her, what an old hag! She's a fucking bitch. She's a liar. She's a goddamn liar. The response is overwhelmingly.
That's where everything falls right now, and that's why we're in such a dire place. It's like nothing gets through. It's just.
But that's actually why I just want to call back ever so briefly to the Eno documentary, because his idea about generative systems, it's almost like no one could have really done anything. This is just playing itself out, and a lot of what went into this moment has been coming for a long time, and it's not based on the ABCs of rational argument or thought. It's a sort of system playing itself through. All right, coming up next, number 3, James.
Number 3.
Hot animation, Creature Commandos on Max. You know, DC movies suck. I'm just going to say it. They're terrible. Their television shows are better, starting with Smallville and Flash and all those, and going up until The Penguin just recently. And their animation is spectacular. They're LGBTQ friendly. Harley Quinn, Kite Man, hell yeah. And this is a new one called Creature Commandos. And the backstory is that Amanda Waller, evil Amanda Waller, has created a mysterious black ops operation in which she gathers supervillains from a prison, and she implants bombs in the back of their neck, and she creates a super team. And with a button, she has a button, and if they go out of line, if they go rogue, she pushes the button and their heads explode. And the fun of it is that you never know who she's going to kill. She could kill the Riddler and he stays dead. Like, you never know who. You aren't too big to die from Amanda Waller. So apparently the government has shut her down, saying, Amanda, you cannot kill human beings. So she gets it into her head that she's going to create a team of non-humans. And so she goes to this deep dark in the prison, and she finds the Bride of Frankenstein. She finds a female version of the creature from the Black Lagoon. There's Dr. Phosphorus, who's a creature of energy, and he's in a containment suit. There's a giant sentient weasel who kills a bunch of people. And she gathers them all together, and she creates this team that she sends off to Eastern Europe to protect this princess. And that's sort of the jumping off point. In every episode, we learn the origin stories of each of the people, and it's not what you think it's going to be. You're always shocked. And the really interesting part about it is the soundtrack they use. They use all 1970s and 80s like Eastern European punk rock soundtracks, which is bonkers. Like, you've never heard any of these songs, you've never heard any of these people, and it's just crazy, but it totally fits in the mood where they're in this like, you know, it's just fabulous. It's really fun. It's like, by the end, you know, most of them are dead, but that's just the fun of this.
You know why they did that, James? Because probably it's a lot cheaper to license those tracks than it
is. But that's true. But it really, really works with their.
And that's streaming on Max, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Number 2. Felix Gonsalez-Torres was an artist, and in 1991, he made this piece, very powerful piece about his boyfriend who had passed away from AIDS, and he created a pile of candy in the corner of a gallery that was equal to his weight, which was 175 pounds before he got sick. And the idea is that you'd see this work, and you were invited to take a piece of candy so that very poignantly the pile would gradually diminish. And you would see someone, as it were, it was a portrait of his lover who died of AIDS. And as people took the candy, so the person would literally disappear before their eyes. And then kind of miraculously, the museum would replenish the candy. And so it would go on. And also very movingly, Ignacio Darnaud wrote about this. You know, you would feel if you took a candy, put it in your mouth, you're a part of this. There's a sort of communion, sort of almost a, you know.
You were partaking in his flesh, in his spirit. Yes.
Right. Problem is that the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery put this work on display recently, and they left out this stuff in the description about what the work was. And not only did they not pile the candy in the middle of the room, they laid it out in a long line. And in the description, they also left out the key fact that it was 175 pounds corresponding to his lover's weight before they got sick.
That's
Instead, the museum says it's the ideal human body weight of 175
what?
pounds.
No
They didn't
man
put it
is
in a
175 pounds.
And while they invited people to take a candy, there's also a note saying, if you're allergic to nuts and candies, you may, contains, an allergy warning. So the Ignacio, who has a fantastic website called Breaking the Gay Code in Art, wrote about this, and it's kind of gone viral because, in a way, erasing the gay point of this entire piece seems to be symptomatic and rhyming with a lot of what is happening right now on an enormous scale as stores are rolling back their DEI policies and
things like Target and Home Depot are no longer
right.
Doing gay pride.
Exactly. It's all slightly depressing, I suppose, but also I think it's important to point it out, and speaks to something I was thinking about earlier in regards to Brian Eno and his documentary, that a lot of what is happening now is just something playing itself out, and that it isn't necessarily avertible by logical, rational argument and powers of persuasion. I don't know if that seems too doomy. Yeah.
That's very grim.
Yeah, but check out Breaking the Gay Code in Art, because he's a fantastic scholar, Ignacio, and has so brilliantly identified the fact that so much art is basically queer culture, to some degree coded or shrouded, but when you realize how much artists have created who are gay throughout history, it is a very powerful testament. And this attempt of the Smithsonian to erase the meaning of a piece is pretty, I don't know, there are no words, I guess.
I do remember when it came out in the 90s. Was it in New York? I can't remember, because for some reason, I feel like I went to it.
1991, yeah. All right.
Fantastic.
Well, okay, let's take one more break. And when we come back, the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
All right. Welcome back. We've been counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow with Tom Campbell, James St. James, and Blake, who does actually have a last name. It's Jacobs. But, number one.
Number one.
All right, not to make this too homeworky, but there's a post going around that I've shared, a lot of people have shared, from Jennifer Walter, who's a sociologist, which is kind of like the goal of the administration right now, the government, is to overwhelm us. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's what they're supposed to be doing. So these are sort of 5 bullet points. A lot of them are common sense. One of them especially, I think I need to adopt. One is set boundaries. Pick 2 or 3 key issues you care deeply about. They want you scattered, and focus is important. So pick, you can't track everything. Use aggregators and experts. Find people, as I think we all have online, and peoples and reporters and people that we trust their point of view, and we get the news through them as well. And again, remember, feeling overwhelmed is the point. Take breaks, process. This is a marathon. I think that's also what you were saying in the last segment, Benton. It's kind of like this is going to be years, right? And then 4 is practice going slow. And this is the one I need. And they say, wait 48 hours before reacting to new policies. The urgent clouds, the important. Initial reporting often misses context. I do think that people are like, no, but they've shut off all the funding. It's like, people are going to report it, but I don't have to have an opinion about it until, wait a day or so just to figure out what that means, or if they're going to retract it immediately. They're just trying to drop stink bombs all over the place. And last but not least, and what we're doing here and what we try, and again, I'm just trying here, I'm not saying this is gospel, build community, share the cognitive load, which I think we do here very well. And remember, they want you scattered. Your focus is resistance. So it's just like, if you're feeling weird and feeling overwhelmed, that's the point. And do it the best you can to keep your sanity. And if that isn't a good number one, then check out the new Share Uber Eats ad, which is 1 minute long, and it involves turning back time. Turn back time, woo! To 1680. Okay.
There's also an Uber Eats, a new Uber Eats advert with Martha Stewart and Charli. XCX. Yeah.
Oh my God. Uber Eats is on fire.
They're bringing out all the divas.
Yes.
Well, that's all we got time for this week. Thanks for listening. Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
Wow.